All right. Well, when I joined the military, I was 20. Wasn't too well informed, but I don't agree with this. I mean, we all had to get injections. I mean, walking through the line, getting your arms pumped on both sides, and then right before the Gulf War, even though I didn't get deployed, I got I think 3 shots, and probably one of them was anthrax. So, I don't agree with this mandate because it's a experimental, you know, medication. Let's just put it that way, and I don't know. Let's see where this goes, but at least one state's, standing up, so we'll see.
I want to ask you about the Oklahoma National Guard. So, what can you update us on what's going on with the Adjutant General's announcement that he's not going to hold National Guardsmen, men and women?
What do you mean? What's going on with it?
Well, I guess what's the Pentagon's? What's the latest on that? Is the Pentagon going to force the National Guard in Oklahoma to get their COVID still? Where are the authorities? Because it seems as if the federal government's authority in this is funding, right? So if in fact men and women of the National Guard in Oklahoma decide not to get vaccinated because the Adjutant General is telling them they don't have to, what will the Pentagon do about it? Will you withhold their funding? Will there be repercussions? What can the federal government do?
Well, I don't want to hypothesize about potential outcomes here. Let me just go back to your question about authorities. The Secretary of Defense, as well as the service secretaries, have the authorities to establish readiness requirements for all members of the Department of Defense, and that includes the National Guard, in a Title 32 status. So the Secretary has the authorities he needs to require this vaccine across the force, including the National Guard.
Even when they're not on federal, when they're in Title 32, the Secretary still has that authority.
He still has that authority, even when they're in a Title 32 status.
So the Adjutant General's memo is meaningless, essentially.
I'll let the Adjutant General speak for his memo. The Secretary of Defense has the authority to require these vaccines for all members of the force, including the National Guard, and as I said, even in a Title 32 status. Because when they're called up for their monthly training, they're still federally funded. So he has those authorities. And he believes, and this is a larger point, that a vaccinated force is a more ready force. And just take a look at what the National Guard has done in just the last year alone, from disaster relief, wildfires, and hurricane relief, to assisting literally in putting shots in the arms of their fellow Americans. They have been very, very busy, and they do meet key national security needs. So it's important for them to get these vaccines.
The only real reach the Secretary has, though, is funding, though, right? I mean, he doesn't, because actually getting rid of the terminating them from their contracts is the state's role, right? That's what I'm trying to figure out is what can the Pentagon or the Secretary of Defense, what can the federal government actually do to enforce this, to force the Oklahoma National Guard to enforce the mandate?
It is a lawful order for National Guardsmen to receive the COVID vaccine. It's a lawful order. And refusing to do that, absent an approved exemption, puts them in the same potential as active duty members who refuse the vaccine. It's a lawful order, and they are subject to that order.
John, just a quick follow-up. The Adjutant General, does the Defense Secretary still have confidence in his abilities?
That is a question for the governor, not for the secretary.
Has the secretary been in contact with the governor? He said on Friday that he was going to
He'll respond appropriately. Yeah. That's still my answer today.
So he hasn't been in contact
No.
with the governor. And so to Courtney's question, not getting vaccinated is violating a lawful order. Of course, it doesn't matter if the chain of command doesn't deal with it, but not enforcing a vaccine mandate, is that also violating a lawful order? And can the chain of command above the Adjutant General do anything about that from here?
Yeah, I'm not a legal expert on that, Megan, so I'm going to refer you to the National Guard Bureau for those kinds of questions. We have the authorities that we need to enforce this vaccine mandate, and more critically, it's important that they get the vaccine so that they can be a more ready force. I mean, that's what I think is missing in this legal argument today, is that it's really for their benefit and for the benefit of the communities that they live in and support, and not to mention their families and their colleagues in the units, that they get vaccinated so that they can be more ready, because we do rely on the National Guard so much.
I think that's well understood, but everyone is looking to this building and your boss for what he's going to do about it, and so far that appears to be nothing.
I don't think that's a fair way of putting it, Megan. I don't have a decision to announce here today. He only just got this letter from the governor of Oklahoma last week. We will respond appropriately to the governor. I'm not going to speculate today about what actions we might or might not take. Hopefully it won't come to that, right? We don't want it to have to come to that. That's not the point right now. The point is to make the case that A, these vaccines are safe and effective, and National Guardsmen, B, are required to take them under the authorities that the Secretary has, including when they're in a Title 32 status. That's the point today. Travis.
Yeah, so Governor Stitt had sent that letter to the Secretary. Have any other states reached out to him with similar concerns that they may be doing something?
I'm not aware of any other states or other governors who have done the same thing. Yeah, Tom.
I've talked to some Guard officials. There's a concern that this could quickly snowball, that other governors and other tags will basically say, okay, Oklahoma did it, we don't want the vaccine either. So does the Secretary plan on reaching out to either the governors or the tags, kind of get in front of this issue?
I don't think the Secretary has plans to reach out to other governors and other tags at this point. If there's a snowball effect, we haven't seen it yet, Tom. I mean, if he feels like that's a necessary thing to do, he certainly would. But it's not something that he's planning on doing right now.
Have you noticed that as everything around you seems to decline, one thing still grows? It is the power of your rulers. None of their plans and directives have solved your problems or made your life better. The only result has been their increased control over you at the cost of your freedom. Do you know why? You gave them the power.